I famously started a cult on accident. I disbanded it on purpose.
You were called like Father John?
It literally still happens.
Yeah.
Like, people see me in the hallway at a Bitcoin conference and be like, yo, Father John. I kind of found my tribe of like, okay, these guys are weird as hell, but I'm sort of weird, and they're the only ones that want to talk to me about Bitcoin, and that's all I want to talk about right now. So I literally just started another room, and I called it like Sunday Satoshi Service. Woosah, like put the peace emoji, hands up, Deacon T-Bang. He came in and he started reading prayers. Someone else came in and they started to sing a song. The next week it was like 7 hours of people confessing shitcoin sins. I was tired. I was like, yo, I got kids. I gotta go to dinner, man. I'm tired. Max Kaiser would come on there and do his little Southern Baptist preaching.
That's so crazy.
You know, Eric Weiss had been on there, and Sailor popped in from time to time, and like everybody, American Hodl and Tina and NVK and like Jimmy Song and Brandon Quiddo. In fact, what happened was I just said hallelujah, and everyone just started cracking up. Bitcoin Mitchell, he used to write these dope songs. Like I remember one of them was "I saved Satoshis because Satoshi saved me," and I think that's the most brilliant line ever.
Yes.
And then we have like sponsors reaching out to us. I'm like, whoa. That's when I knew I had to shut it down.
Welcome back to the Bitcoin Nova. Today, I'm here with John Fakhoury, the CEO of Stacking Sats Inc.
Thanks for joining me today. And don't worry about, whatever you had going on because I know you're busy. So thank you again for being here.
I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
So I have the CEO Stacking Sats Inc. today. I am super excited to hear about it, especially because I heard about you from my husband, who is friends with your cousin. So it's really cool to
small world.
Yeah, it's cool to have a real Bitcoin connection in real life. So thank you for doing this, and I can't wait to hear about your company and what you've been doing. Because from what I know, you started this Treasury company in 2021, was it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like there wasn't really like the jargon of Bitcoin Treasury companies in 2021, and there weren't a lot of companies stacking sats on their balance sheet. But all of the owners of our company were Bitcoiners. And it just became a natural conversation. So in 2020, 2021, mostly 2020, I brought this idea to our team. Michael Saylor was doing it at this point too. And I was just like, we should be doing the same thing. I'm not sure why we're not.
Yeah.
And so it was met with a lot of resistance. And then I sort of took a dictatorial position on that one and just like, okay, well, we're doing it. So we did that in 2021, but yeah, there wasn't like Bitcoin Treasury company. That wasn't the jargon. That wasn't the perspective. So yeah, I guess in some ways we're doing it. We weren't taking any leverage. We weren't taking any loans. We weren't taking investment to sort of accelerate our strategy, but we were just taking profits and not wanting to hold it in dollars, and just started buying Bitcoin. So
it's just saving your excess cash, right? Cash reserves.
Yeah, for the most part.
So was it Michael Saylor that convinced you to start it?
No, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, like it wasn't like we were a corporate. We weren't like some publicly traded company. We weren't like necessarily using the same mechanisms. It just was another sort of indicator, like, why am I not? Like, there aren't any reasons that I shouldn't. And so we wanted to make sure our bank wasn't really opposed to it. They sort of were, but what were they going to do? And so if they debanked us, which wasn't, honestly, I should have probably considered that even more. I didn't. Like occupation choke point wasn't a thing like back then.
Yeah.
And it just didn't seem like a big risk. And so we were buying Bitcoin. And
did you have any
one of my favorite parts of the meeting update would be weekly, just being like, what is up-to-date Bitcoin balance?
Was there any sort of, since you didn't think about Operation Choke Point 2.0, did you have any sort of issues with the SEC when you, when that sort
No, I mean, well, we're not a publicly traded company. I don't think we have any air. Yeah. So, I mean, we don't have any of the air of like, I don't know, it's like hard to get the SEC's attention. Our investors are mostly just, supporters of me, and what we've been building. So there wasn't any like investor perspective. I mean, Ross, our CFO, who has been somewhat publicly working on this with me and is brilliant, and I love him, but he was my biggest headache. Like, he was just getting over him was my biggest headache.
So how did you do it? How did you convince them? Did you do like a meeting with the board? Did you give them materials to read up on? And
I
how
mean,
did
this is
you?
this is a company that I own 65% of, right?
Mhm.
So there's a lot. There's a lot you can do when you own the majority of the company.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't run my business in that way. Like, I don't beat my chest and say we're doing what I say, but there are times where, I've taken into account all perspectives. And to me, it was a very straightforward decision. Ross also feels that way today. So there's
Mhm.
not a lot of like controversy looking back. The scoreboard is clear.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I just, I made a decision and I had to live with it. And, when you are the CEO of a company or you're the leader of an organization or you're the parent in the household, right? Like all kind of the buck stops here. And
Yeah.
I knew that I was responsible. And I heard Ross, I heard Adam, I heard the team, and I made a decision and we moved forward.
Yeah, and it's like when it's your company, again, you don't want to say that I'm calling all the shots without any input, but
Yeah.
when you know so much about Bitcoin and you understand it and you know that it can preserve your cash and grow it instead of just watching it, get depleted by inflation, um, you have to make that call, so it's like something that's for the, best of the company. And I'm sure they're very glad you did that.
Yeah, I mean, there are risks, right? Like the reality of it is like, if the company's struggling, all of a sudden Bitcoin's struggling. I mean, like,
Mhm.
Framework is decorrelated from Bitcoin, and like we're not a Bitcoin mining company. We're not an exchange. We don't sell wallets. We deliver managed IT services, cloud infrastructure services,
Mhm.
unified communication services, cybersecurity, mostly for small, medium-sized enterprises throughout the United States. And like the sort of, it didn't feel like there was that much of a correlative risk. But in the case that, Framework was maybe struggling and Bitcoin is struggling, then that is a risk, right? Holding in cash does make sense. And I don't know, like, I didn't really necessarily think about just like the inflationary pressure per se, but it just felt like, hey, over a 4 or 5 year time, span, I think we could just do 4 or 5 times the amount of work and value, right? So,
Mhm.
if we're making X amount of dollars and I put that amount of dollars into Bitcoin, right, over 4 or 5 years, we may literally, in terms of just like productive economic output, be able to double the amount of work we've done. And
Yeah.
Bitcoin did half the work. So,
Yeah, and
yeah,
you're using your excess, cash. You said you weren't leveraged. So at that point, you're figuring that if you just average in the company's earnings, into a reserve asset like Bitcoin, you're just not taking on leverage, so it's not as risky over time. When you look in the big picture. But have you started to change your framework? Do you do more
yeah. So,
leverage now?
yeah, I mean that's the real genesis of Stacking Sats Inc. So,
Hmm.
Stacking Sats Inc. wholly owns Framework, but for Framework customers, it doesn't really matter, right? And so we don't really want to confuse our customers. Framework IT is still Framework IT. They don't call us to buy Bitcoin; they call us because they have day to day IT needs, and we're guiding them on large, consulting needs and infrastructure needs and cloud and cybersecurity needs, et cetera, right? So, that doesn't really change things for them. It does for sort of our, our strategy high level. So, Stacking Sats Inc. owns Framework IT,
Hmm.
and it ultimately is just our engine. It's our Bitcoin mine. We don't have ASIC sitting in a data center somewhere. Our mine is delivering, predictable IT outcomes and delivering value in that realm, and we produce Bitcoin by doing that. So, in a lot of ways, we're just a synthetic Bitcoin miner. We have taken some investment. We are planning to take a modest amount of leverage, and we, continue to amount to or continue to plan to drive a certain amount of our profits into Bitcoin and just run a responsible business.
Hmm.
A lot of people are just like, "Wow, this is a crazy idea," and like, "Oh wow, look what they're doing." And we've kind of been tagged, and it's like the only sort of crazy thing that we're doing is just running a business.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the sort of compelling component. And I don't know. I think like there is a real interesting sort of dynamic that's happening here where everyone's looking at Michael Saylor. And listen, I love Michael. I've gotten a lot of good advice from Michael Saylor. I've listened to a lot of Michael Saylor. Eric Weiss has advised me and has been, a good friend. And I'm so grateful to have, some like really brilliant minds to be able to tap. But like everyone just thinks that they can be Michael Saylor. And I don't think I can be Michael Saylor. I
Mhm.
really don't.
If you don't know about multisig, I highly recommend learning about it. The Bitcoin Advisor can help you understand what it is and why it's important. Scan this code for more info. or click on the description below. Also, don't forget to check out Satoshi's. This isn't just fashion, it's signal. Wear the message, plant the ideas. And use my code to get 10% off your order with my link in the description below. Every order you place helps support my channel through the Bitcoin Lighting Network.
I have a high opinion of myself, but I don't think I can be Michael Saylor. And I was playing golf with one of my really good friends, Crypto Graffiti. He's like a really well-known and just brilliant Bitcoin artist. And I was like, bro, you know how many times we've watched Tiger Woods hit a golf ball and we can't hit a golf ball like Tiger Woods, right? So this idea that you can just watch Michael Saylor and you can be Michael Saylor is crazy to me. And so we're just trying to run a healthy business and ultimately leverage what we do well.
Yeah.
And ultimately be able to produce more Bitcoin with $1 than we could as an individual. And as we plan to when we go public, which is where we're headed next.
That's amazing. When do you think that might happen? Like, do you have some sort of?
I mean, the world is that. I mean, we're putting. What I can tell you is we're putting a tremendous amount of effort. There are a lot of targets for us to be able to pursue.
Mhm.
There's not a lot I can really say publicly about it at this point, except for that is our pursuit.
Mhm.
You know, we have the right people in place. We have the right investors in place. Some of my best friends happen to be the people that work on these deals, and it's just like independent before we even got into Bitcoin. So like, you know, Joe Carlosar is a really good friend of mine. We've known each other for 15 years. Neither of us have been in Bitcoin for 15 years. And he just happens to be one of my best friends, right?
That's
And he happens
amazing.
to be an interesting. Yeah. And so,
I
you know,
just
and I've
recently
been
he found
blessed.
out he's from the area too.
Yeah, he lives up the street.
Mhm.
He lives up the street. So anyway, yeah, we've been buddies from, you know, Chicago circles for a long time.
Mhm.
And so anyway, you know, Joe aside, he's great. We just have like, we're blessed. We have like the right team, the right support.
Mhm.
We have a really, really good business. We're in an industry that makes a lot of sense. That sort of is on trend with where the world is headed. It's growing independently and is ripe for us to be able to take over a lot of other acquisition targets to kind of grow our company and grow our ability to stack more and more Bitcoin.
That's great. I'm excited for you guys, and I think it's the right move. You know, I think it's the right move for companies, for families, you know, for anybody who wants to create a treasury reserve of their own. You know, it's something that I think everybody should have.
Well, I've been trying to so where I'm at now is, or one of the things I'm trying to do is just sort of outsource our playbook. Like I don't intend, like people are like, I don't know, like, I don't know that there's been like this cloak of mystery sort of that I don't know, I've been sort of hearing whispers and I was like, no, here are all the answers. We built it. You're welcome. You know, like if you can do it. Now, I do think that there are better businesses positioned to do this. I think not every entrepreneur of a small business can go and raise $1 million worth of capital to ultimately lever a strategy like this. But if you can, then you should.
Well, that's
Our position is that, like, so the kind of the way we look at this without being too long-winded is like Bitcoin's good for everyone.
mhm,
And if you can buy, you know, if you don't have a company, then you should just buy Bitcoin as an individual.
mhm,
And as an individual, for most, especially Americans, like the best leverage and pretty much the only leverage they can get for most Americans is a mortgage. And you know, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't play that, but you know, to me, if like you can get 3, 4, 5% over 30 years,
mhm,
and you understand Bitcoin, to me, that seems like a reasonable bet. And if it doesn't work out, you know, your husband probably isn't that mad at you, but I imagine you guys are pretty aligned anyway. But for the
mhm,
general, you know, American, so. But for others, right? If you have a business and you have a really productive business, especially a business with really really recurring revenue, so you don't have ebbs and tides and become a forced seller in a bad spot, then you really start to become a really attractive sort of wrapper and envelope and protective layer to purchase Bitcoin. And I think there are times where it makes sense, I think, to be a Bitcoin, you know, to sort of develop a Bitcoin treasury strategy.
mhm.
And I think probably not in other companies. And I think it just sort of matters, you know, individually sort of on those circumstances, your ability to raise capital and sort of the nature of your business and
Yeah.
the trajectory of that.
And it's nice that you are sharing your playbook on that for others who would want to follow those strategies because people can choose to do it that way where they, you know, take leverage so they can accumulate more. But other people could just use their excess cash reserves. You know, some people just have
Yeah,
excess cash
sure.
and they don't have to take leverage if they don't want to. It's just a good place, a better place to store your money to grow in the future. So yeah, it's nice that you're, you know, open sourcing it. Like you're allowing people to follow along.
Well, you know, it's funny. You know, it's funny. So I was in Vegas. I'm so sorry. I
No,
just
you're
want to make
fine.
sure my nanny's taking care of kids. But
Mhm,
the uh, the funny thing is, we were in Vegas, focused on going public, and actually, we decided after talking to Eric and I was talking to Sailor, I was talking to others, and you know, I kind of came to this conclusion that hey, we could just run the same strategy private and then pick when we want to go public. Um, like again, I don't want to like badmouth like any of these other Tigers, but I'm looking at them. They have no operations. They're not profitable. They've like absolutely levered themselves as much as they can. And now what? Right? Like now what? What's the next move? Right. So Sailor was on record the other day. We're talking to Joe Burnett, who's running Bitcoin strategy for Semler. And the first thing he says, well, step one is to make sure they're not hemorrhaging cash. Make sure the operating company is healthy. I was like, wait a second. No one's actually got an operating company. Like there's so few operating companies. Everyone's copying Sailor, but they're not listening to him.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not that smart. I'm not that brilliant. So I'm just like, hey, we have company, more money coming in than going out. We take some of that money, we borrow more, and we make sure we can service that debt, like, normal debits and credits. And like, we're not being geniuses. We just did a little bit of math. And if you do that math, it works out that you can, outpace Bitcoin, slightly. And depending on if you're in a bear sort of choppy market, then significantly. And so, while we still sort of have ambitions to go public, when I was in Vegas, my focus actually wasn't to stay private and build the model that we did. It just sort of was like the way that it made most sense for us to kind of pursue going public. And so we sort of like reversed sort of our perspective of, instead of building it sort of top down, building it bottom up. And that seemed to have resonated with a lot of Bitcoin maximalists, especially, who are probably asking the same questions as you and I were like, wait, how does this make sense for everybody? Like, how is this actually going to prop up for all these companies that just have ultimately bought a zombie company and are, issuing all types of instruments to buy more Bitcoin? And I think it'll work for some, but I think, I don't know if it's going to work for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, again, if you don't have, by operating company, you mean if you don't have cash flows coming in, like if you're not doing well as a company, is that what that?
Yeah. Or I mean, there are literally, there are companies that have bought 50, 100 Bitcoin that literally have not revenue or cash. I mean, they don't have any footprint of a business. Like there's no attempt to make to generate revenue. So I don't listen.
Well, that can be.
I want everyone to do well. The more people are buying Bitcoin, the more Bitcoin goes up. So I root for that. I don't mean, but I'm still honest. I don't know how to like to not like.
Well, there's just it's like, because you're just pointing out the level of human greed that could take place, because you're thinking people are either FOMOing their company into something where they know they don't have the company to back it up. So then there's a chance that they risk insolvency and they would have to sell their Bitcoin in that case. So it's in order to not lose their company type of idea. So I think that's what it is. But it's a great idea for people, as long as they don't over leverage themselves or buy too much Bitcoin that they might have to sell it one day. So it's just it's a crazy landscape that we're living in, because you keep seeing, you guys did it in 2021, but now you're seeing company after company talking about how they're doing this. So this is and then I heard even recently that there's going to be now access to Treasury companies through 401ks, which will unlock trillions of dollars. And I've even heard about how you talked about getting capital or raising capital or taking a loan or leverage on your house. Like now you can actually take leverage on your Bitcoin. You can actually get Bitcoin loans through Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae.
Bitcoin. Don't take leverage on your Bitcoin.
No, I know. But I
think what you're referring to is that you can consider it as collateral.
Well, just the fact that companies are now considering, not to say that I don't agree that you should do that, but just to see that a company like Fannie Mae is coming out saying we consider it collateral now.
I think that's huge. I mean, I think that's huge news. I think the 401k thing, the executive order, I think people are a little overstating. I do think, eventually, right, this all happens, right? Like the reality of it is it's already happening, because there are a bunch of companies that are in the Fortune 500, or the S&P 500, that either are buying, will buy, and people are having passive flows and to SPY regularly. But the executive order really was just saying that the president wants to see the sort of regulatory landscape provide for that. 401ks are governed by ERISA. I'm hardly an ERISA attorney, but it is incredibly complex, and there is just all these like lawsuits that come to play. And that's why when you look at most 401k plans at any major company, even ours, it's just like vanilla, like crap funds that just don't generate any yield. And Bitcoiners are familiar with this sort of landscape, and that's why they Bitcoin. But It's not as like simple as what Trump's executive order was the other day, which I certainly think is encouraging, right? Because I do think those that regulatory landscape needs to be affected, but it's just a function of time, and I think this is what you were heading toward, right? Like Bitcoin every day becomes less and less risky. More and more of the world's adopting it. I was saying this the other day, and I think this a lot of times, like I have to step back over the last 10 or 11 years. There's just any day there is a story that had it been the story when I first got into Bitcoin, would have been the most massive thing ever, right? And any of the things that you just listed are examples of that. But I was thinking about how Bitcoin passed Amazon as the fifth largest asset, and I was thinking about 1% of the world really sort of understands Bitcoin, and honestly, that's sort of a stretch. I mean, if you really think about it, there's just like a fraction, just a small fraction of the world that understand Bitcoin, and it's the fifth largest asset in the world. 99% of the world understands Amazon. 99% of the world understands Apple. 99% of the world understands Microsoft and understands NVIDIA. Now, they may not understand the intricacies of their business, but they know exactly what they are. They know exactly why they want to own them. And yet, Bitcoin is the fifth largest asset and 1% of the world owns it. What happens when 5? What happens when 10? And so all this stuff just doesn't matter. It's just sort of noise. It's like the fifth game of Michael Jordan's career when you knew he'd be the greatest player ever. And so it's just sort of noise on the journey. And so, like, I try not to get lost in any of that sauce and, blip along. But anyway, not to
That's
get
such a
too
great
esoteric.
point, though. I mean, I love that that idea because it's gotten to the point where it's the fifth largest asset and nobody like because you think like I even looked it up the other day. It says 1.5 to 3% of the population has Bitcoin, but that's if they only have one wallet, which people have multiple wallets, so really is it less than 1%,
It doesn't even, I mean, like,
Yeah.
it doesn't even matter. Okay, what if it's 2%,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't have to, it isn't 50%, right?
Right.
So, like, it's just putting things in perspective.
Mhm.
It's interesting because, like, I was a psychopath in 2016 telling people, hey, Bitcoin's gonna be $100,000 one day. So I was a psychopath. I literally was. I was an
Amazing.
absolute psychopath. I acknowledge the psychopath that I was. This clip is going to be used, I'm sure, out of context many times in my future. But it was absolutely crazy to tell people that it was going to be $100,000. In fact, your husband's buddy, my cousin, and many of my other cousins who would sit around poker tables with me and tell me how crazy I was when I was just telling them, hey, just take this money and go buy like 3 Bitcoin right now, and you'll love me. And many of them did, many of them didn't. Many of them that did absolutely love me, even if they didn't then. And the reality of it is, like, here I am today. I'm going to tell you it's going to be $10 million a coin, right? And that won't matter. You won't think about it in $10 million a coin. You don't think about a coffee as like, in sat terms yet, right? You use think as like $5. I don't know. I don't drink coffee or $10, whatever that coffee is now. But you sort of have these like pricing and now, and it's already sort of shifting, right? You sort of already see this for like the most art, sort of intense Bitcoiners. But the reality of it is that you sort of like, it's just as psychopathic, right? To say, hey, this is going to be 100 grand in 2015 or excuse me, 2016, 2017. And yet if I say the exact same thing, if I give you the same magnitude of order, even with Larry Fink and Jamie Dimon and, the whole world, like quite now at this point, being aware of it, even if they don't understand it and are touching it in some form or another, every day, it's like the trajectory is clear. And I still sound like just as much of a psychopath. Here I am in 2025, gray bearded, Bitcoin's at 120 grand, and I'm still the psychopath, even though I was right? And
It's
that's true for a lot
crazy.
of Bitcoiners.
It's funny because and that's the reason from what you said earlier, because being that it's the fifth largest asset and that people don't understand it, you had this idea in 2016 because you understood Bitcoin, you understood what it is and and what this technology means, for the world. But that's why you can predict these crazy psychopathic evaluations. But now you are saying this still from a person who understood Bitcoin from back then, and you could see that it's still growing, but people probably look at you like you're crazy because they think, well, it already reached this price. How high can it go? But it's because they don't understand Bitcoin. It's because, the people that still haven't, uh, which is such a tiny percentage of the population that understands what it actually is. So when you hear somebody that understands it, if you haven't put in the work yet, it should make sense to either wonder about it and wonder why they're saying this and why they
It's
were
one of my
right.
favorite things. It's one of my favorite things Sailor's ever said. So Sailor's like taught me a few things that are like foundational to like my life moving forward. Now I'll talk a little bit about it on the Bitcoin Treasury side in a second, but one of the most foundational things he said is just like, I don't know anybody that's looked at Bitcoin for 100 hours that doesn't leave with a favorable opinion of it. And I don't know anyone that's looked at it for 1,000 hours that absolutely isn't a psychopath like me at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't think I don't think you can look at it more and come away with less.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's inevitable, right? So like I used to stress about this in a big way. I don't know how much you know about Sunday Satoshi Service, but I used to have a cult that
I literally just found out about this, and I was going to ask you about it.
Yeah, well, I'll let you drive it. But anyway, I don't know, I used to be like an orange pill, like assassin, just putting so much effort. I remember tweeting this, and this one was one of the things that like early when I joined Twitter at the behest of American Hodl convinced me to jump on Twitter. He's like, man, you gotta get on Twitter. He's like, dude, that's where it's all at. I'm like, no, I just read it from afar. I don't really want to participate in the mayhem. And now I'm more convinced than ever that I don't want to participate in it. But anyway, I remember tweeting something to the effect of like, if I've ever talked to you about Bitcoin, that was my way of saying I love you. And the reality of it is I think it resonates with a lot of Bitcoiners who like once it clicks and they recognize sort of how game changing it is, especially back then where like modest amounts of money could really change people's lives, had they played the playbook out to today. And I've watched that happen hundreds, thousands of times. But I found what I realized is that I used to yell and I was crying out to try to help people in some regard, mostly because I was like, or fighting with shitcoiners. Mostly because I was actually convincing myself still. I was still like, I was stressed and I was like yelling about it and I was arguing about it and I was like so fervent about it. And I still am, but not in that way, because now like I know I'm right. I'm no longer like, I realize I don't have to convince myself anymore. And so that sort of outward projection just kind of went away. And, I'm kind of in a place now, as politely as I can say it, where I don't argue about it. I don't debate it. I don't have any intense conversations about it anymore. I don't have the energy for that moving forward. Like I got 2 kids that are growing and I'm not getting younger, but where I'm at is I'm willing to let people cheat off of my test. So, we showed up to the exam and you didn't study and, you wanted to copy off me. I'd be like, yeah, I wouldn't cover my test. I'd let you copy, Stacy, but I'm not going to stop mid-exam and explain to you how I got to answer C. And so that's where I'm at right now in my Bitcoin like sort of journey. And I've seen this for some of my other friends, especially friends of mine that have got in like 3, 4, 5, 6 years before me. I now see sort of where I am in that journey, where I'm just like, I'm tired.
Well, I love this that you're saying this, because it's like, it reminds me of something. I mean, I've heard a lot of people talk about it. Like you feel hopeless and then you find this light and then you want to, spread the light with other people. And then you become that person that, you just want to help others. So you feel like you're just kind of, trying to break through to people. But then it's like you're passing the torch. Like you've done your part. You were in it so early. You're moving on to a different phase of your life where you're like, I've done enough educating. I've done enough screaming.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I was dark. My life was dope. Like I liked life a lot before I found Bitcoin too. It was just so great. And it was just such an awesome like life raft. But the rest of that is true. And I think like that's something that a lot of Bitcoiners resonate with, especially like my class or class before. It feels so weird to say class.
I know.
Like, there's no Toyota class. There's no Nike class. There's no Pepsi or P. Anyway, so yeah, it's just I think it's just something that people sort of resonate with, and I think the journey scale. Like I almost always know when someone got into Bitcoin within like 5 sentences, or there's like 2
How
questions.
about me? When did I get into Bitcoin?
You've been asking all the questions. I haven't had a chance to ask any questions, and so we'll have to do this. We'll all get beers, especially if my kids have run up in your yard unknowingly. I'll have to treat you and your husband and the team to beers and steaks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I presume that my presumption is with your excitement and sort of your framing that you're a relatively new Bitcoiner. I'd say in the last, like, you're probably within the last cycle, the last couple of years, maybe like a post-COVID baby.
Yes.
Yeah. And, like I always can tell based on if someone thinks Dennis Porter is serious. So I think if you think Dennis Porter is serious, then you got in after 2021.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
If you've realized he's a fool and a clown and a con artist.
He was supposed to be on my show and I had to cancel like the day before. And then he never responded to me again. So I'm like, I don't care. I was just like,
I'm authentic.
No, that's cool. Yeah. I mean, I don't really care either. I mean, I'm just who I am. And, but yeah, he just didn't respond. So I'm like, yeah, that's cool. If you want to join me, that's fine. If you don't, I've been having like not just bigger names, which I'm very excited about,
Good for you.
But just any Bitcoiner, I just love talking to people about how they got into it, which that's the next thing I wanted to ask you too, is how did you, what was your beginning like? Like, how did you?
Yep, my story's pretty well known. I had an employee. Obviously I own a tech company. I had an employee who was like, boss, you should look at this Bitcoin thing. And I was like, yo, Jeremy, you should show up to work on time. How about that? And anyway, Jeremy's a smart kid. I met him when he was a student at Lane Tech High School, which is where I went to high school. You're probably familiar with Lane Tech.
Mhm.
And really, really bright kid. And I was just, I don't know, I was supporting the robotics team and some other sort of like groups at the school at the time, and was, just trying to do whatever I could to be helpful. And anyway, I met Jeremy and we started, hiring a bunch of interns out of there. And anyway, he's the first person that talked to me about Bitcoin. I started looking into it. Then I had buddies out in the valley that were part of that conversation. And
So you
I was
started
left
looking into it right away when he told you, or were you just?
No, I mean, yes and no. I mean, it wasn't I was like, when people tell me like they found Bitcoin and they was like, oh my God, I figured it out. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, that makes no sense to me. Or like people tell me they read the white paper. I was like, really? Like, I don't believe you. It's such a boring piece. It's such a boring document. Like, I've read it. Like, I read it after my net worth changed significantly, and I'm an interested, curious dude. So I never buy that shit. But anyway, what I would tell you is this: my journey was a little tricky. I was buying it, trading it, not knowing what it was. I didn't know what the difficulty adjustment was. I didn't know 21 million cap. I didn't know a lot of things. I was buying ETH at $7. I was buying Litecoin. Anything that showed up on GDAX, I bought. Then GDAX got bought, for those who remember, they got bought by Coinbase Pro. And then, whatever, it became Coinbase. It got bought by Coinbase. It became Coinbase Pro, because back then it didn't have as good of a trading GUI, and Coinbase knew it. And so that was sort of their acquisition there, but it doesn't matter. The point is, I heard about it from a number of different places, but the first person I heard it from was Jeremy. And that's why Jeremy was able to keep a job, where anybody might've been fired 15 times, for a long time. And then I had some buddies out West that were, that were getting into to Bitcoin and crypto. And sort of that was, another touch point. And then, I was on this thing called the internet too. And it was just sort of a multifaceted thing. But yeah, by the time, sort of the block size wars and the bear market in 2017, 2018, that long bear market really allowed for me to sort of dig into Bitcoin in a much more substantial way. I felt really crappy. What's that?
Was that when you decided, was there a lot of toxicity coming out, and were you more defensive at that time? Is that when you started?
No, because I didn't participate. I didn't really care. I was weirded out by Bitcoiners. I find Bitcoiners to be way different than the people that I would have normally hung out with. I love all my Bitcoin friends now, but man, I had to get used to the concentration of autism. I had to get used to the concentration of weird. These are people that I would not want around my wife and kids. But anyway, I where I'm at now is a different place. But anyway, I would say I got a chance to really I bought the top in 2017. I bought 19,400. I remember buying a very substantial buy, especially at the time. For me, that was a lot of money. And I was telling a lot of people to buy at that time, anywhere between, 2,000 to 15,000. And it ran up really quickly. I mean, for those who remember 20, God, I always mix up 2016 and 2017, but it was from fall to winter, it just ripped up to 20 grand. And not quite 20 grand. We didn't really pierce 20 grand. And in my mind at that point was, we're getting to 50 grand for sure. We might be at 100,000. I remember being at the Chicago Symphony Orchestra and at the welcome mule for Christmas or something like that. It was like Christmas time. And Santa, who, famously comes down, was telling, reading the Christmas wish list is this is a tradition every year. And it was the first time he said Bitcoin on there. And when Santa at the welcome mule at the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, with mostly senior citizens sitting there, says Bitcoin, I'm convinced we're going to 100,000. There's just no doubt in my mind. And so anyway, a lot of people I knew bought $10, $15, $18,000 Bitcoin. And then in the bear market, you're watching it bleed and bleed and bleed. And my shitcoin bags were bleeding and bleeding and bleeding even more. And so it was really in that bear market plus Joe Carlasari sensibilities. My partners were really sort of we all sort of were starting to formulate as Bitcoin maximalists. The block size wars allowed for me to sort of look at things a little differently. And so I don't know, it was just the culmination of things. I didn't have all these like epiphany moments that everybody else had. I just sort of had this like, different information at different times and was able to piece it all together.
And you had
And
a
so
good
everybody
group of
that,
friends then too. So it's like,
yeah, I'm lucky. I honestly, sometimes I think about
yeah.
it and I'm like, wait, how are these my friends? Like, how did
Mhm.
I like end up at this nexus of the world where some of the, smartest people in this particular topic in the most integrated ways and the most, people that are moving like,
Mm,
and I literally could spend an hour just talking about like the crazy people I've met. I mean, I could probably spend 10 hours, just, sort of the crazy people
That's
I've
why
met
you
through.
probably are so sane compared to all the autistic crazies out there,
Ugh.
even though you call yourself,
I
psychopath.
present normal.
Yeah,
I present
because
normal.
I think a lot of the people that find Bitcoin and are completely alone about it, and they don't find actual people to talk to on like X or something about it, and they're just figuring this out on their own, they sound completely insane and they're trying to, they're trying to find somebody to connect with and understand this with them. So I think they totally sound nuts.
Yep.
But I think when you have friends like you did, you had this like support group kind of already. So you didn't have to be like the total crazy one because you just had people just, like a support system, so.
Yeah, sure.
Mhm.
Sure.
So that Satoshi Service thing then, did you do that because you were tired of all the craziness and you just wanted because you were called, like, Father John for a
Dude,
while?
it literally still happens.
Yeah?
Like people see
Okay.
me in the hallway at a Bitcoin conference and be
Mhm.
like, "Yo, Father John, what's
That's
up?"
awesome.
All right. So how this happened? So Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces were like really popping during the pandemic, and at this point, I could become public about Bitcoin, and I also listened to like the autists like at high levels, and so there was just always this weird like thing where like normies would come to Bitcoin, autists were like rah, 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 and then it was just like, oh god, it was like so cringe. And so I sort of found myself at the intersection of sort of this lost in translation sort of perspective and being able to talk Bitcoin sensibly to humans that are just working every day,
Mhm.
aren't like sitting on the internet, watching memes and Sailor and back then it was like, I mean, Sailor wasn't even a character back then, but it
Right.
was like, Antonopoulos and Bitcoin Jesus, which I know is not a favorite of Bitcoiners today,
Mhm.
but back then Roger was, a huge Bitcoin educator. I don't know, there's just like tons of names, right? But anyway, point is like Bitcoin Clubhouse was just kind of going, and I was just sort of becoming a voice there, and just met a bunch of people that I kind of found my tribe of like, okay, these guys are weird as hell, but I'm sort of weird, and they're the only ones that want to talk to me about Bitcoin, and that's all I want to talk about right now.
Mhm.
So I sort of met this crew, but the toxic vibes were just like, even though I mean, I sometimes can be toxic too. Like I don't like to put up with like scammery and dumb like
Mhm.
dumb crap. It's like it's not my vibe. Um, on the other hand, like if I feel like someone's like genuinely trying to learn and like they got scammed because they bought Bcash thinking it was Bitcoin. I'm not like,
Yeah.
like ripping their heads off. And so I don't know. I think I was just hungover one morning. It was like a Sunday morning, and Bitcoin Tina. I don't know if you know who Bitcoin Tina is, but Bitcoin Tina, I love you, Bitcoin Tina. I miss you, bro. Actually, I talked to him last week. I don't know why I said that. Um, but Bitcoin Tina he was just fired up, man, all the time. It was like Sunday and I had a hangover and he's just yelling and he's screaming and he is just and so I literally just started another room and I just called it like Sunday Satoshi Service, woosah, like put the
Mhm.
peace emoji hands up, and everybody started to flock in. And Deacon would eventually wind up being Deacon T-Bane. He came in and he started reading prayers, and then someone else came in and they started to sing a song, and people started to come in and confess their shitcoining sins. And I'd grown up in like the Catholic Church, and I was like the lead altar boy,
That's amazing.
and so it was just this weird sort of confluence where we sort of like it was just very organic. It happened like super organically, and then
I
like
love
then it
that.
was like, "Yo, are you gonna do it next week?" And I'm like, "Oh man!" And like the next week, it was like 7 hours of people confessing shitcoin sins. I was tired. I was like, "Yo, I got kids. I gotta go to dinner, man. I'm tired." And then it was like a thing, and then like everybody was on there. I mean, like Max Kaiser would come on there and do his little Southern Baptist preaching,
That's
and
so
Eric
crazy.
Weiss had been on there, and I can't remember. I think Sailor popped in from time to time, and I mean, just like everybody, American Hoddle and Tina and NVK, and like Jimmy Song, and Brandon
Wow.
Quidum, and I literally have lost track. But everyone would just come in and be like, "Yo, can I do a guest spot on Sunday Satoshi?" I was like, "Sure." And then we'd have like sponsors reaching out to us. I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!
For a
This is not
Twitter
a thing."
space?
Well, like my buddy Alex Adelman, who's the CEO of Lolly, he reached out. In fact, what happened was I yelled out the word hallelujah that first day. I
Oh my
remember yelling,
God, that's
I
great.
don't know how or why, but I just said hallelujah. And everyone just started cracking up. And apparently, a friend of mine, Aubrey, who I think she's still at Lolly, she works with Alex at Lolly, and she went on Twitter and she like made this like Merriam dictionary in like tweet where it's like hallelujah and did like a phonetic spelling and then like kind of made it look like a dictionary entry,
Oh my
and it just
God.
started like kind of trending and kind of like became
That
a
should
thing that
stay
kind of
a
went viral.
that should stay a phrase. I hope it
Hallelujah. Yeah, I still do. People literally yell that to me when they see me like at random conferences,
that's
or they'll
so
just like
fun.
tweet it at me or DM me. So yeah, it just turned into a thing, and then people were like asking me to like marry them, and then we did this like widespread baptism, and it was just all a joke. But I mean, like it really became a thing, and I was exhausted by it. I was so exhausted.
You literally
I
could
remember
get your ordained minister certificate online and actually
we had
move
like
people.
7 deacons. We had Spanish deacons and Jamaican deacons, and we had core devs that were like deacons, and
Oh my God,
and
they
people.
could be at like a destination wedding or something and be playing your
Dude,
Twitter
I
space
won't.
in the
I still won't
background.
say who it is, but there is a very wealthy, whale that asked me to be at their wedding as part of like a thing, and I couldn't do. That's when I knew I had to shut it down. That's when I was like, okay, this is a cult. No one has died. This needs to end. And so
Oh my
that's kind of
God.
what happened.
But it
Yeah,
was like a
Corey.
peaceful space, but it was fun and it's but it's
Well, what it
also
was is it sort of became a cool educational playground, and it was the one place where it was the unsaid rule that you could not be like you couldn't be an ass. And
Mhm.
the thing about it is, in church, people know not to be an ass. You can't be rude at church. So even Tina, and even like the most toxic Bitcoin maximalist, Jimmy Song would come on. He's like, he hates a shitcoin more than anybody. I miss you, by the way, Jimmy. I know you're not going to see this, but I hope you do because she's
Hope he
doing good work.
does. I hope
And
he does.
yeah, and he's brilliant. But yeah, it would just be like anybody that you could think of that is like the most hardcore maximalist. They would just for that hour or two would just turn off Bitcoin Minstrel. I forget Bitcoin Minstrel. He used to write this like these dope songs. Like I remember one of them was, I mean, you got to go listen to this stuff. It
Yeah.
was like, um, he was like, I saved Satoshi's because Satoshi saved me. And I think that's the most brilliant line ever.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, so it was a thing. It was a thing. I famously started a cult on accident. I disbanded it on purpose. And it was, I remember, maybe one capstone to this
This is
is
amazing.
yeah, I had like Easter at my house, and I couldn't do Sunday Satoshi Service because I had Easter, and I knew that I couldn't let my mom, who's like a hardcore Catholic, find out about this, and so I like canceled. I was like, hey, we're gonna cancel this Sunday service. We'll be back next week. I got literally dozens. And I know you think I'm kidding. Dozens of DMs like, "Yo, is everything okay? We're waiting, and we don't see the room for church. Am I blocked? Am I not able to? Something happened." I mean, I literally dozens of them. And it was just one week, and I was like, "Oh my god, we got to stop
How
this."
many people would be in there?
Oh my god, 5,000,
Oh my
4,000.
God.
Yeah, it'd be absurd. It was just like, I mean,
That's
I literally, you have to understand, this was not something I contrived. This was a joke I played, and it literally just took like immediate life. And it was like, oh shit, this is real now. Yeah.
But
So it
that
was a
is
thing.
like the most fun thing ever. That is, I mean, you just made people's week. You started off that week doing that, and it was just like a fun place for everyone to hang out. And yeah, I can see how it got too big, but I love how you said I literally started a cult and I had to shut
Yeah,
it
I did.
down.
I accidentally started a cult. I purposely disbanded it
Maybe
for
that's
sure.
why people say that saying is Bitcoin a cult because of you.
Oh, it really is. I mean, that was the joke, right? The joke was making fun of the cult. The
Mhm.
problem is the joke became too true. I was like, well, wait a second. I can't actually be a cult
The
leader.
moment you yelled out hallelujah.
Oh my god, that was just like totally extemporaneous. Like I don't know what happened or
That's
why, but
so
someone was just
funny.
like confessing their sins,
I
kind of
love
thing.
that they confess
Yeah.
their shitcoining sins. That's
Oh yeah,
so
I mean, it's on YouTube. Like if you go search Sunday Satoshi Service on YouTube,
Okay,
you're able
well,
to.
you know what? By you doing this episode with me today and talking about this, how I talked about passing the torch, I have an entire community on X that we created. And I mean, my group is called the Paranoid Bitcoin Anarchists.
Okay,
And there's another group
don't worry,
called,
that doesn't make me nervous at all. I don't know that type of crew at all.
okay, But they're cool people. We're just more like we just say that because people think we're paranoid. Like when we believe in Bitcoin, it's more like a joke because normal people that when they don't understand Bitcoin, they think you're crazy, so that it's kind of like a joke in that way. But it's not like anything crazy. It's just people that we connected with early on. But we have another group called the Bitcoin Army, and they host spaces every day now. And we have some really cool people that are hosting spaces, but they have
Those are my critics, I think. Some of those are my critics. They're
really
like, they don't want me to issue equity in my company or something. They think I'm a scammer or something. I
Bitcoin
can't tell. I think
Bitcoin
one of
only
them is,
people.
I can't. I think one of them is an Uber driver that I didn't tip 200%. Is what I think.
I'm gonna have a talk with these people.
I think it's like, listen. I was actually hoping for better trolls.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've made it until I have like higher quality trolls. The problem is I'm also friends with all the good trolls,
Mhm.
and they've already trolled me about all the things you can troll me, like
I've
my
been
4
trolled a little bit.
Well, I want better trolls.
Hey.
I told Yellow. I told Yellow. I said, Yellow, forget it. Every 4 years we have like new training for noobs or whatever. Every cycle there's like noob whatever. I was like, bro, we don't need any more noob. All this stuff's already there. Ben Session has a video for every hardware wallet. Michael Saylor talks every day. We don't need any more of this.
Yeah.
What we need is new troll training.
Yeah.
I told him, we need to crowdsource this. You need to lead this. You need to go make sure that the next generation of Bitcoiners properly know how to troll, because these guys are like,
They're not good at it. Yeah.
I've been disappointed in the Uber drivers.
Well, there's been a couple. So I think with me, my channel's new. It started in February, but and again, I'm a paranoid Bitcoin anarchist, but I see new things that come out and I'm interested in stuff. And I sometimes get hate for different things. Sometimes, but then you think if you're not doing something that people have an opinion about, then you won't get any sort of
Oh, I
trolling.
just assume they're right. I actually just assume they're right. I don't care. The only person that really the only opinion that literally matters, and I figured this out. This is gonna be totally juvenile. But like, my gorgeous girlfriend could tell me I'm getting chubby. It would not matter. My daughter told me that she's like, Daddy, your abs are looking a little, like, she said something like that. I starved for 3 days. Right. So literally no one opinion, like you can't hurt, like nobody can hurt me the way Arya can hurt me. And that's it. That's it. Like, that's it. No, literally you could be 6'4", 260, be like the most rhetorically sharp dude ever. And you can't, my little 42-pound 7-year-old is going to be the one that can knock me out.
So awesome. Yeah, no, it's true. It's like we care about them. Like they actually, like my daughter says stuff like that to me. She'll critique me a little bit. I'm like, hey, but I'm pretty thick skinned. And that's why when people even talk about how, when you start a channel or put yourself out there, people are like, how, I'm worried that people will judge me. I'm like, well, I don't care. If people want to judge me, they can judge me. But the thing is, like with your company, like recently I got interested in the BitKey, because of the multi-sig.
Sure.
I
like it. I actually play with it a little bit too.
Okay. I like it. It's a new idea. And some people freak out about the idea of no seed phrase. And I'm like, well, in a way, you don't want a single point of failure. It's a good new option for people who are just getting into Bitcoin, want to store it and are terrified to lose their seed phrase. So, I mean, I promoted it a little bit. I made a little video and, there was a lot of supportive people in my group.
They gave you crap and called you a show. Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
They gave you crap and called you a show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you like
pretty much.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, you got a good sponsorship. I'm like, no, I didn't. I didn't get a sponsorship. I just like it. I think it's cool.
It doesn't matter.
And but then it's like you're not a true Bitcoiner if you don't have a seed phrase and store your Bitcoin that way. But at the same time, when I think about companies like yours or any treasury company coming out, they're probably not giving one seed phrase to one person saying, hey, you're in charge of this. Like I wonder how your company's.
Yeah, I mean, we're public. We use Casa. We're using AnchorWatch. We're getting insured by AnchorWatch. I'm also an investor in AnchorWatch. I publicly disclose that anytime I talk about it. I love Rob and Becca. They're great. I was one of the first investors in AnchorWatch. American Hodl called me. I just finished interviewing Saylor. I had the worst migraine ever in the Austin airport. And he called me. He's like, we're going to do this. I said, great, bye. And, off AnchorWatch is gone. So they've done great. So we use AnchorWatch. We, have an insurance product behind it. We have processes at Framework that are really well documented around the control mechanisms as well. That is all being upgraded and updated, reevaluated as part of our transition to AnchorWatch. But, I used to be sort of like security guru, early days, and used to spend a lot more time sort of like, I mean, back then, like just getting people to go to like multi-sig was a thing, right? Like it was like Unchained and Casa, and that was the way to do it. Most people didn't roll their own, even until like probably Sparrow sort of became more widespread. But I'm hardly the tech guy. I would always like, I always like lean on my genius guys, and I'm hardly like the dangerous like coder. But yeah, I mean, I actually played with the BitKey. I think for a lot of noobs, it makes a lot of sense. Do I think it's the ultimate solution? Absolutely not. I think there's trade-offs, but if you're telling me holding it on Coinbase or holding it in BitKey and on a BitKey device, especially for like people that have less than a coin, which is crazy. I can't even think that. It's like I used to think like $100,000 and be like, oh, if you got like 20, 25 coins, and you probably need to be thinking about multi-sig, because that 20, 25 coins is 100 grand now, but that's going to be like 1.5 million in like 2 years. And now here we are. Yeah. And I guess it was more like 5 years, but here we are anyway.
It's like and people that think.
But yeah, so you're always kind of thinking ahead. But like at this point, especially like for folks, for me, this is not going to be a popular opinion either. Like for me, I've oranged more people into IBIT or FBTC because they just can move money in a few. Like I can get under the Charles Schwab and be like bloop, 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 bloop. And yeah, listen, they don't have spot Bitcoin, and I want to encourage them to have spot Bitcoin. But having it in their retirement accounts is basically a forced hodl for 20 years, right? Or 30 years, whatever, however young they are. It's better than not having any Bitcoin. Right. And so
that's what I think too.
I don't let evil or like perfect be sort of the enemy of good or better, or just doing, one step at a time. And it doesn't mean they can't go buy spot Bitcoin later either. Right.
Yeah. And that's why I was, cause again, I'm a maxi, but I'm also a hairdresser. So I talk to all my.
Staci, you're new. Let me give you the breakdown of this. You have mostly, Bitcoiners all try to tell you they're libertarian. They love libertarian principles, right? They're the first person that'll tell you if you sell your Bitcoin or do anything with your Bitcoin, they'll be like the first Nazi or first communist to tell you exactly what to do. Listen, there's no such thing. They're just, it's your money.
Yeah.
You do whatever the hell you want to do with your money. You want to hodl your money? Hodl your money. You want to spend it on, a new hairdo? Spend it on a new hairdo. It's your money. Now, I would advise not, but like, do what the hell you want to do, and don't let weirdos on the internet that claim to be libertarian tell you what to do with your money. It's yours.
Yes. Yeah.
Can I curse on this episode because my kids aren't around?
What about it?
Am I allowed to curse?
Oh, yeah. I don't get my kids. My kids are
to fuck themselves. Be like, how are you a libertarian telling people what to do with their money?
I know. And that's why I want to make it more like when I talk to people, I think that when I had like this older guy who took his retirement account and he bought Fidelity, he transferred literally all of his retirement accounts to Fidelity Bitcoin after.
Okay.
And I was so proud of him. And normally people would be like, why didn't you tell him to buy Bitcoin? Why would you tell him like, good for you that you bought the Treasury? I'm like, because he's got all of his money tied up in traditional finance for his whole life. He's not going to take a huge tax hit just to go buy Bitcoin and sell it all.
These are the autists that I had to get used to, right? They're just like not pragmatic humans. They don't understand things. Most of them don't have children. If they have children, they're probably like, apps. I don't know. I don't listen. I don't want to like condemn people, but listen, you got to live your own life. When you go to sleep at night, they're not going to cross your path. And, when they go to sleep at night, they don't give a shit about you either. They care about their kids. They care about their wife. They care about their immediate island, just like everyone else, just like you, just like me. Right. When I'm going to bed at night, I'm thinking about my 2 nuggets. I'm not thinking about idiots on Twitter who care about if I'm holding something in Casa or if I'm holding something in Sparrow.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself. It's my money.
Yeah. And that's why I'm like, I like, if I see a cool new product or I see something that I believe in, there's been a lot of people who talk about people that are shilling a new wallet, like let's say the BitKey, and they're just thinking, well, they're getting paid to promote this. I'm like, but if you're promoting something or talking about it, it's because you actually think it's a good thing. It's not because you think it's terrible that you're just like.
Well, I mean, I think some people do, and I think some people don't. Yeah. I mean, listen, I think it's a function of integrity. I don't tell people what to do or what not to do. I don't think I've ever shilled a product. I built a few things that I thought made sense for the world. I have a company that I believe in. I'm putting effort into. Some people might say I'm shilling it.
You shilled a Twitter space that caused a cultish movement.
Yeah, I screwed that up once. But in fact, here's the funny thing is we never took a donation. People would try to donate money to us. And like, no, we won't. So Alex sponsored Sunday Satoshi Service. But I was like, dude, you can't pay me. So what we did is we just took money and we just gave Satoshis out, or we gave hardware wallets out or whatever. So we were a non-denominational church that denominated in Bitcoin.
People were like, here, take my sats.
And we reversed tithe. We must have given out 2, 3, 4. I don't remember. Someone can go look it up. We probably gave like 2, 3, 4 Bitcoin out. Probably.
That's insane.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Anyway.
That's so amazing. That was an incredible story. You're such a cool person to talk to. I like your attitude. I like that you don't care what people think, but you're also, you were tired of all the toxicness and you started this space that you did that you think is it was a crazy thing looking back, but I think it's pretty awesome. So I love hearing about all that. It makes me, I don't know if Twitter even has a database so I could go listen to these because I think they get rid of them after some time.
No, so most of them weren't on Twitter. Most of them were actually we simulcasted it, but you just there's a YouTube page with, just go to it's not Satsen, it's got, I'm so brain fogged. Go to a Sunday Satoshi Service on YouTube. There's 5 or 6 or 7 episodes still there.
I'm going to do it.
You get a good vibe. I mean, they're long, but
I don't care.
you can trip through them. And it's going to feel like a weird, like, mishmash of Catholic Church, Baptist Church, and
it's going to be like a time.
It'd be like, for instance, it'd be like, we would always say, oh, go bless, we bless you, or, you're forgiven in the name of Hal, Satoshi, and the holy main chain, and it'd be like all these little Catholic or like sort of intermingles or whatever.
That is the funnest
we're
thing
all
ever.
contemporaneous. It would all just joke, or people rewrote the Hail Mary or Our Father, or all these types of prayers were rewritten.
That is fun.
That
is the coolest. Yeah, and then just like taking a trip back in time, like seeing people that that I didn't I want to say grow up listening to, but because I'm class of 2020, so it's not like I was around during some of the early days where these people were teaching people. So it'll be fun to go back and hear what people were saying before I was around. So that would be definitely something I'm going to do for sure.
It's so funny to even think about it in that way too, which is scary because now I feel old, but it is what it is.
No, I mean, and it wasn't that long ago.
It was like 5x. It's like dog years,
But it's not that long ago. It seems like it is, but it's not. And just like you said, like about the whole thinking about multi-sig or not, you think, well, I only have $1,000 now, like how you were saying back then. You thought people with 25 Bitcoins would have to think about multi-sig, but now if you have less than one, you said, or around one, you want to think about it.
You should be rolling your, you should be, I don't know.
But just like people that have $1,000.
Whenever I use the word should, whenever I use the word should at this point in my life, I'm like, I start to be like, no, don't tell people what they should do.
Yeah.
If they want to ask what you're doing, maybe you can tell them what you're doing. But I've started to move into a phase of my life where I don't know what you should do. I'll tell you what I'm doing sometimes. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of why I wanted to start this channel, because I have so many people that know that I've been into Bitcoin for years and they always ask me about it. And I love talking to Bitcoiners, but when there's like everybody if there's a new person that's like, so tell me about Bitcoin. I'm like, well, go watch my YouTube channel, because then now I can just send you my channel. You could learn from people that got into it and why they think it's good. So I don't have to repeat myself so much, because it gets, it's time consuming, so I don't want to talk about it nonstop, because I do get on the topic and I don't know where to quit sometimes. So I feel like
well, I mean, you've become the Bitcoin person in your world. And for like a lot of people, probably people who are listening to this, they're that person too. I am in my world. And it's just like, at a certain point, it's just like, dude, like I love Bitcoin, but I love a lot of things. And there's not much that I want to talk about every day, I love golf. I don't want to play golf every day either.
I'm still in the phase where I want to talk about it nonstop, and I'm fascinated by Bitcoin.
Yeah, you're 4 or 5 years away.
Yeah, probably
5 years away. Like I can always tell, like, so your next cycle, you're gonna be like, I think like sort of, because I don't think in these 4-year cycles. I know everyone believes in these 4-year cycles, and I think the adoption is so different between different communities. Like, you had like libertarians and ANCAPs in like 2011. You had like, pedophiles and drug dealers in 2013, 2014, or like maybe like 2012, 2013. And then you had like sort of the tech bros in 2016, 2017 kind of thing. So it's like much different. Like now you got, Larry Fink, right? So you got a much different. So I don't believe in the 4-year cycles, but anyway, I think you're probably like 2 to 4 years away, depending on how much effort and time you put into it. And then you're just going to be like, yeah, you'll be too rich, you'll be too tired, your kids will be older, I don't know, like there'll be all these things that sort of factor you into, you'll help, but you won't be as fervent
for the next group of people that will do what you have done and what I'm currently trying to do.
Yeah, well, have fun. And
Thank
it sounds like it's working so far, so keep it up.
It's going good. I'm enjoying it. So, and I'm so thankful for you joining me today. This has been amazing.
Yeah, I had fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited for what you're doing with your company, and I can't wait to see how it goes going forward. But yeah, keep it up. I can't wait to check out Sunday Satoshi. Wait, what's it called? Sunday Satoshi Service.
Sunday Satoshi Service. Yeah, that was the yeah. But yeah, appreciate you following along. I don't know if like people want to follow along, just follow Stack and Sats Inc.
Yes.
I don't know. We're not doing anything that special. We're just stacking Bitcoin in a healthy way. And for some people that seems to be really crazy and novel. For us, it just seems to be sensible. So that's what we're up to.
Yes, I'm glad. And I will definitely share your link below. Thank you so much. Thanks for hanging out with me today.
My next guest is another mind-blowing supernova. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it.